But 400 of that, 400,000 of this number is from the Bridges Jones endowment, which at the beginning of last year, we didn't even know who this fellow was, Jones, but in his trust, he left his trust to Trinity. It was about, we collected about $750,000 in December of 2024, of which 350 went to repay the restricted funds that we had borrowed from. And not only last year, that there's a gap between the 206 and the 350 we put in, because we had borrowed from the restricted funds in 2024, 2023, and in 2022. So we filled that gap back up. And in this year, in 2023, $1 million of that $2 million improvement was funds from the Donna Nichols Trust. We have received so far from Donna Nichols Trust $2.2 million, and we have another $500,000 that's still to come to us shortly. Anyway, so yeah, endowment balance over the years, as you can see, this is just kind of another illustration of it in terms of a picture. But we've been floating around that 7-point-something million. Once upon a time, in my tenure as treasurer, before the crash of 2008, we were at 11 million. We were almost at the goal that we were trying to achieve, and that goal being, if you're there you go. That goal being 4.5%. I think I've been treasurer now for 17 years, and I think it was probably that long ago that the vestry said, we need to only take 4.5% out of our endowment because that's a sustainable number. Well, we haven't been getting close. We took out 9.7. What's happened is that, we've been great. We've been very fortunate in that some of our parishioners have passed and left us money. They've left us that kind of contributes to those endowments. But when you can look at that previous slide that I had, when you look at this, one of the things that I have been doing for the last few years is highlighting this number, the budget deficit before endowment contributions. All right. That's a big number. That means that's the gap between current church earnings and the expenses. All right. Now, the other revenues are endowment fund contributions and oil and gas, which that was given by people before us too. So basically, I treat it as that looks like part of the endowments. That's not current earnings. We get earnings from the oil and gas properties, and if anybody has any extra oil and gas properties they'd like to donate, that would be fine too. But anyway, so what we're faced with is that up and down over, this is a 10-year period, our expenses have been running around the 1.5 million mark. Okay, we've had different staffing levels, we've had different, this is over the 2 different rectors and so forth, but it's still kind of trending either flat or a little up. Whereas pledges, back in 2015, pledge income was $835,000. Now, you saw today in the budget, we used about a 650 number. We used the 650 number because 650,000. We used that number because that's where we were at the time we approved the budget in December. Once upon a time, we used to put an aspirational number in the budget, and about 3 years ago or 4 years ago, we decided that doesn't do us any good to have an aspirational number. We need to know what it is. So we stopped in December, in the middle of December. Consecration Sunday has come and gone. We made some follow-up phone calls. But at the time we adopted the 2025 budget, the number was 650. Now, you saw in today's bulletin that that we were at 671. So we've improved about 21,000, but that's still not sufficient to fill that gap. Anyway, so that illustrates that. The other thing, we've been fairly good. There's only I don't think there's any year where, well, there are a couple of years where we were exactly on, but operating expenses, the brown line is budgeted, the pink line is actual. This past year, 2024, was one of our best years. Like I said, $129,000 that we were under budget. Unfortunately, good news and bad news, like I always say. Unfortunately, some of the money we didn't spend was money on youth and things like that, where, once upon a time in my business career, I was told, great, you're under budget, but did you get the job done? Because that's not, it's great. So you can't look at numbers in absolute terms. You have to think about, are we accomplishing what we're trying to accomplish as a parish family? So anyway, let's see. Now, this is another interesting one, because you can see that while it shows again that the pledge numbers are declining, and not only do they decline, but in 2024, when all was said and done, we had $697,000 in pledges, but the final number of pledges paid was 648. So that is a $48,000 shortfall on what was pledged. That's a little more than usual. I used to always say that 4 to 5% shrinkage was pretty normal. This year it was more like 7. But even when you have pledges during the year, people leave, people pass away, people get disgruntled for whatever reason, and they either don't fulfill their pledge. Some people have financial difficulties that they can't repay their pledge. But and here we are. This was as of Friday. We were at 699, and of course there's nothing in the actual column because I don't know anything about that yet. So anyway, but that's kind of, I wanted to show that, and really that's all the information. But the point being that, and I will, this, in a way, this is rehearsal for the annual meeting, because I'll still have a little time at the annual meeting. But I think at the annual meeting, one of the topics that we're really going to want to talk about is where we are on the search process, and because there's even in this budget that we don't like, it's, like I said, the vestry approved it, but it's our budget. It's not my budget, it's our budget. It's Trinity family budget. And this is, like I said, Father Bob is going to, has convened a group. We're going to look at costs and expenses, but we're also going to look at how do we grow the top line. We can't, I just don't think we're going to absolutely get there. One of my members of the finance committee who's sitting with us, George Walls over there, talks about marketing all the time. And what's our marketing budget? And I said, well, it's not very much. But a lot of things we can't just look at it from and that's not our intent, to look at it purely from a cost-cutting budget, because, like I said, some of the cost-cutting items people won't like. They just won't like them. We were even talking about number of services. Can we do 4 services every Sunday? If we do 4 services every Sunday, we need 3 clergy. If we don't do 4 services every Sunday, we might only need 2 clergy. So those are the kinds of things that we're going to talk our way through. Other than that, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to entertain them. And we wanted to do this as a separate financial forum rather than a small part of the annual meeting. And again, I'll make the promise that sometime maybe in May, we'll look at first quarter, see how we're doing, and then we'll look at it again. And I personally like the idea, and I need feedback from all of you, but I'd like to see if we need to get this out in front of the parish more often instead of annually. And that was our intent, and that's why I'm here. Yes, sir.
Can I just add on the committee?
Yes.
The committee that we formed, the subcommittee of the finance committee, was at a fairly strong suggestion from the diocese that we get our act together. That's kind of reducing technical terms. But, and so our goal, and I think there's five of us, is that right?
Yeah.
5 of us on the committee now. Jessica just joined us, thank goodness, because we had quite a few guys with hair my color. And we have younger, but we have,
Oops.
I said I want a bunch of cold-blooded bean counters. And I want to look at this and see where can we get, we're not going to get balanced budget, reality. We're not going to get balanced budget this year. But if we can make a commitment that in 3 years, we're going to be balanced budget, as Harry said correctly, it isn't just about expenses. Can't get there just doing expenses. We've got to grow revenue. So I think we all are hopeful. Part of our prayer every Sunday is for the new rector to be able to stimulate and motivate our church, and I think that'll be a strong component to the search committee when they're looking for somebody. We need really a dynamo out here, in my opinion. But I think this is a great look at what we're doing. I really appreciate Harry putting these together. I think quarterly is a good idea, I think, because I think y'all need to know. We're part of a family, all of us are a family. We need to hear and know these things. So any feedback, if it's positive, you can call me. If it's negative, call Harry. But any feedback really would be appreciated. We've done a little brainstorming just so y'all know of where are the possibilities. It's kind of put anything on the board. What can we do? And we're going to examine all that stuff. So our plan is I'm acting interim rector for whatever 2 months. I have 1 month left to go. I don't think the diocese always tells the truth. I'm sure they're going to try and lean on me. But anyway, the plan is we get a real interim rector in here. I've been whining to Ken and Betsy every week. Get a real interim rector, but we're going to do this thing regardless because it's important. And like I said, we've got a good group of guys, ladies now. So I'm encouraged that we will make progress. So sorry.
No, it's good. You brought up something though that I meant to mention. See this mutual ministry support? It fortunately went from 15% to 14.75% in 2025, but that's another one of those plus and minuses is that the diocese wants us to break even, but they also like our $235,000 that we contribute every year because we're like second or third largest contributor to the mutual ministry support in this diocese. I think the cathedral and one of the St. Paul, whatever it is, in Oklahoma City are slightly larger, but not much. I believe that's almost, if I remember the budget from the diocese, that's almost 10% of the mutual ministry support from the whole diocese comes from Trinity Church. So they want us to break even, but they also would like to keep getting that money. So they want us to break even by keeping the revenues up. You know, once we, and just so everybody knows, once we move money from either the endowments or borrow it and it goes into operations, it's subject to the mutual ministry support contribution to the diocese. So even when we borrow from ourselves, we apply 14.75% of it and it goes to the diocese. Anyway, that's good. I want you to bring that up. And the other thing that I will bring up, because we're in a transition year, there are a number of assumptions that we've made as a finance committee and the vestry about when we'll have a new rector, when we'll have an interim director, when we'll have, how much supply ministry will we need to support Father Bob and Mother Cheryl? All these things these are all guesstimates in this particular budget. So it's going to be a moving target. And when we start making some of the decisions, it'll be what it'll be. A Trinity budget is not like a government budget. It's not like if you have it in your budget, you spend it. I try to I try to coach all the people that said, do you really need this? And you think about it every time that an expenditure comes up. Anyway, that's all for me. Any more questions? Yeah.
My understanding was when we had our, couple $1 million of debt,
Yeah.
our endowment interest was going to pay that debt interest. Are we benefiting from this year from having paid that off? Are we getting that?
Yes.
Is that part of that
Yeah.
9.7 that we're taking?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good point. Is that part of the well, even before Donna Nichols passed and left us nearly $3 million, Aldine was Newcomb, and then she was anyway, she left us about 750,000 also. And the vestry, Trinity Vestry, was operating under a long-standing policy that anything that was undesignated would go to pay off debt. But for those of you who might be new, I don't see any new people in here, but when we did this hall and rebuilt the church back in 2004 and 5, we were supposed to it was supposed to be a $4 million budget, and we were supposed to be able to raise that. It became a $5.5 million project, and we only raised 3.5. So we've had from 2005 until 2022, we had a $2 million loan outstanding, and we were paying interest on it. For a while, that wasn't such a bad thing because our interest rate was under 1%. But then but anyway, through these generous contributions, we paid off the debt. So actually, if you look at this slide, up until 2021, that number was also the collateral for the $2 million debt. So our net endowments were really all $2 million less than that because we had a debt against it. Now we're at 7.5 and there's no debt. We paid off the debt in 2024 finally. So that's gone. And Father Lee didn't like having debt, and I don't like having debt, but we were fortunate that people, it's hard to say about a fortunate passing, but people passed and left us funds that we were able to pay off that debt, so that the number you look at now as our ending balance of endowments is all endowments. So it's now as Bill Nate points out, that some of that money really isn't even available to borrow because part of Donna Nichols' bequest was $750,000 for a specific organ fund. And that's for the day that might come when we have to actually rebuild that organ. And it's expensive. So that endowment can't be really used by the church for operating purposes. But the music fund, the general endowment, and the Mulford endowment can be used as the vestry sees fit when it's needed. We don't want to, because since I've been treasurer, this is the budgeted number, this 503,000. The numbers that are above that are when we've had to take extra money out for capital projects and damages that we've had to repair and things like that. But anyway, even the 503,000 is over the six. Well, you can see it right there. It's over the 4.5. We haven't hit the 4.5 since that day when we had the 11 million back in 2007. So, well, anyway, but just a few more things to point out. I think that the whole purpose of this is to keep the parish aware of where we are. Yes, sir. Doug?
How do the number of pledged units this year compare to previous years?
Well, let's see, where are we now? Last 2024, that final number of 697 represented 222 pledging units. We are now at